I'm Max Saunders. I'm a Professor of English and co-direct the Centre for Life Writing Research here at King's. That's my day job. But it's been such a pleasure curating this art exhibition with Sarah MacDougall of the Ben Uri Gallery and Museum. Alfred Cohen was an American painter. He was born in Chicago in 1920. So 2020 is his centenary, the perfect moment to look back and reassess his achievement. He served as a navigator in the Air Force during the war, and after it studied at the Art Institute of Chicago. And when he graduated in 1949, he was awarded a travelling fellowship and headed straight for Paris. His teachers were all saturated with French art. The Art Institute's museum is full of the most amazing Impressionist paintings. It seemed the obvious place for an aspiring young artist to be. But art had been changing. Abstract expressionism had appeared, and the centre of gravity of the art world was shifting in the other direction, towards the USA and New York rather than towards Europe and Paris. But you can see Cohen, like other European painters, experimenting with abstraction. And that's really the main theme that runs through this exhibition, the way his pictures play on the border between figurative art, representing people and real places, and abstraction. He'd had a couple of successful shows in London, and right at the beginning of the swinging 60s he decided to move to London. But the art world was changing again. Pop art and conceptual art were in now. Figurative painting was out. Cohen carried on doing what he did best, transforming his style and experimenting with new techniques. He moved out of London in the early 60s, then further away to Norfolk in the late 70s, and his work has rarely been seen in London galleries for 40 or 50 years. But now people are becoming interested in figurative painting again, and in its immense contribution to the story of modern art, so it seems important to look again at his work now. His first few years in London were really the turning point in his art. He'd been finding his voice as an artist in Paris, but arrived in London confident, energetic, an incredibly skillful technician. And London gave him a new subject. He said, "One morning I walked out and saw the light on the river and the houseboats, and I knew that's what I had to paint. I didn't want to set up an easel on the shoreline. The river was moving and I had to move with it. So I wheedled a pass from the port authorities and rambled round the docks, where I managed to hitch lifts on the tugs which plied between Gravesend and Hammersmith. The crews were marvellous. I'd sit there on deck and sketch whatever was going on. They never made me feel in their way. Their world was something different, something on its own, and I think they shared something of my own excitement in seeing me get it down on paper." He painted a whole series of often huge canvases of the river and its docks, and had an exhibition of them in 1961 called Aspects of the Thames. Millbank Tower was going up on the embankment at the time, and he managed to get up to the top of the scaffolding and sketch from there, and onto other high vantage points like the catwalk across Tower Bridge. One of the papers described him as the Spiderman painter. Alfred said, "The roof of London was a natural place for me after 4 years as an aerial navigator. I felt like a bird soaring over the surface of the river, dipping down when I wanted to. And what was also important to me was that I was the first to see it that way. The paintings were impressionistic, watery, Turneresque, suffused with light." Well, one of my favourites is Sunset from Blackfriars Bridge from 1960. It's certainly suffused with light, but it's not one of the Turneresque ones. Turner painted the Houses of Parliament on fire. You have to look closely at this to work out that those taller structures on the left are the Houses of Parliament, just visible round the curve of the river over the tops of the buildings on the south bank. Alfred loved Turner's work and quoted the words said to be his last, "The sun is God." And this sunset certainly has a transcendent energy. But it has nothing of the mists and swirls and glows of Turner, nor of the textures and hazes of the Impressionists. Alfred loved Monet too, but what you have here is structure rather than texture. One reviewer said one of the best things about him Look at almost any few square inches of a Cohen canvas and you have a little gem of abstract painting. And you can see that here. Look at those buildings on the left. They're completely convincing as architectural forms, but he doesn't get that by painting photographically. When you look close up, it's a complex network of geometric shapes and planes and angles. Then, if you half close your eyes, it resolves back into buildings on a river. It was a trick he was to pull off repeatedly in much of his best work, whether landscapes, flowers, interiors, even people. He even does it with the sunset itself here. Rather than impressionist squiggles that convey the rippling of the water in the sunlight, Cohen paints the intense glare of the reflections on the calm surface. It's utterly unsentimental, which is hard to bring off with a sunset scene, and the effect is to make the light seem as solid as the buildings, almost sculptural. It's as if he wants us to see the light itself, not just what it illuminates. And then look at the colours here. The boldness of them, and he was always a striking colourist too, might make you think of the Fauve, painters like André Derain, another of the great modern artists who painted the Thames. But it doesn't look like a Derain either, nor a Whistler, nor a Kokoschka. It's utterly distinctive and recognisable as an Alfred Cohen, and it still looks a strong, modern and fresh picture 60 years after it was painted.